most welcome. This is the first class. Those of us who have just joined, you're most welcome. Just maybe to repeat on what I've already said, I talked of us being able to have our login details on the portal, because all the study materials will be accessed on the portal. Almost everything is there. The course outline, which has even the books which you can go and read further, either searching them online or checking them in the library. Then you also have my PowerPoints. All the PowerPoints that will be used here in class, you can access them on the portal. So find time, log in and download. What? You look very surprised.
Yes, I said it.
That's how I've been using it, and that's been very effective. Yes, so just to go through the course outline. This is Gender and Development, Year 2. The aim of the module is to equip students with knowledge and skills of gender and development. So the main aim of the module is to equip you with skills and knowledge of gender and development. The outcomes, by the end of this study, you should be able to define gender terms and concepts. You should be able to discuss gender and development approaches. You should be able to explain gender issues in different sectors of the economy through gender analysis. You should also be able to explain gender mainstreaming and budgeting perspectives. You should also be able to discuss gender audit. And you should also be able to use gender tools and statistics in project and program management. So these are some of the outcomes that we need to be very conversant with by the end of this semester. Yeah, that's a nutshell of what our course outline is all about. You can get all the details on our portal. So our first topic will be on gender terms and concepts. That's what we want to concentrate right now. Gender terms and concepts. Subtopic: sex and gender. What do you understand by the word sex?
The difference between the male and female.
Sex. Can you come again? The difference
Between male and female.
that's sex. Winner. What do you understand by the word term? The term sex. We're in agreement with that, eh? The thing that differentiates between a male and female is their sex, in terms of their genitalia and genetic differences. What about gender? What do you understand by the word gender? What do you understand by the word gender?
I think it can be also the difference between male or female, but then in terms of their laws and difference.
Like this one is a male, this one is a female. So gender refers to the role of a male or a female in the society. So it refers to the roles, behaviors, activities, attributes, and opportunities that any society considers appropriate for girls and boys. So gender refers to the roles, behaviors, activities, attributes, and opportunities that any society considers appropriate for girls and boys. and women and men. So what about people whose characteristics are not clearly known? Do you have some people in our society whose characteristics are not well known? You have them? How do we call them, or how do we describe these people? How do we call them? Is there a specific name that we call these people whose gender is not well described?
The homosexuals.
Can you explain to us who are homosexuals?
Those people who are male but then they do gay stuff. You can tell, yeah, you can tell their gender is a male, but then what they do, their roles.
So their gender is known, but their roles are different.
And the behavior is different.
Okay, interesting. What other group of people whose characteristics are not well known? Are they only homosexuals? A group of people whose gender is not well known. Okay, people whose characteristics are not either or typically male or typically female at birth are intersex. The people whose they are not well known, either they are male or female, they are deemed to be called intersex people. So these people, they portray intersex traits of which some of these traits are not visible at birth. Yeah, these people, they portray different traits of which some of these traits are not visible at birth, because when they are born they look to be, for example, you can say this one is a boy, this one is a girl when they are born. But when as they grow up, because of their ambiguous genitals, others it's internal or external. Yeah, because of their ambiguous genitalia, which is sometimes internal or external. So as they grow up, they now portray these traits. So you are able to differentiate them as LGBTQ. That's the simple abbreviation which is widely used nowadays. Have you ever heard LGBTQ? What does this L stand for? Lesbians. G, B, bisexual. T, transgender. Q, they call it Q. They also pronounce it cube. Q-U-E-E-R. It's like something weird. Yeah, so
there is LGBTQ.
You've never come across that term?
Am I gay?
Yeah, so some of us have come across this term, and being someone who is doing gender involvement, this should not be something strange to you, As someone who has done gender involvement before, this term should not be new to you. You should be very conversant with it. You should be able to explain the meaning of this term. Are we together? Yeah. Any questions, any comments, experiences? We are in a free world, Let's share. Any comments, any questions before we proceed? We are free to go, Okay, fine. Now let us look at gender roles and sex roles. What are sex roles? Yeah. Roles.
Things that everyone has to do, and has to do. Roles that are placed, that these things everyone can do, but female cannot do.
What are other things? How do you understand by the term sex roles? Let's bring up our ideas. We are brainstorming, we are discussing. By the end of the day, anything more discussed in class is easily remembered and well understood as well. So that's why we're bringing it up, so that we discuss, we share ideas, and anything strange you're also able to understand, so that it no longer becomes strange to us. This is the world we are living in.
I think sex laws are those laws that are assigned that it is a must for a female to do that or a male to do that.
It is a must. Okay, so are essentially biologically determined. So sex roles are essentially biologically determined or determined. They are related to sex organs, fixed at birth and does not change. These are sex roles. They're essentially biological, or they're biologically determined. They are related to sex organs, fixed at birth and does not change. Male or female. Can you give some of examples of these biologically determined roles? Giving birth, which is done by which sex? Females. I said someone was going to say males. Another example of a biologically determined role. Our friend has talked about giving birth, which is assigned to females. What else?
Women and ladies are expected to dress feminine.
Is it biologically determined? Dressing? Something which is biologically determined. We have said they are related to sex organs. They are fixed at birth. They do not change. So giving birth, can a man give birth? Serious?
With the LGBTQ.
Are you serious? Men are giving birth? Where?
What's his name?
They are not giving birth. They are not. After they
Can you please explain to us what they say?
as in the gays, most of they do the stuff like the way male and female do when they meet, like for when they do sex. They do, those guys, they do for hospital checkup. They're supposed to be pumped out the sperms then come and go. But that's how over
So they also give stems. Do they have?
they don't have, yeah.
How can they give that?
What does transgender mean? Someone who goes to the hospital to change their sex organs.
Or those who take their
Yes.
sex organs, but they don't give them the baby.
Can they give you a penis?
Yes, they
They are doing that now.
science, now it's possible.
Oh, let's do it. For one day, they'll do it.
Okay, so interesting. What are some of the roles that can only be done by males? Giving birth only females. What about a role which is only assigned to males? Impregnating. Yeah, that's biological determined.
Yeah.
Can a woman be able to impregnate?
No.
Very good. Maybe the word, because the word keeps changing every day. Maybe science has proven us that they're also impregnating.
Mr. Transgender, if you know you are a woman.
Are there any other rules?
For female breastfeeding.
Breastfeeding, very good. I hope you take note of these things because they may surprise you one day on your own. You are there just on your own, and you'll be remembering one day we were discussing about these things, but they are nowhere in your mind. So I hope you're taking note of this. And what else? So I've come up with 2 points for the males, for the females. Giving birth, breastfeeding for the males. Menstruation is only done by the females. That 3rd point. What else? Can a man menstruate?
No.
Okay, fine.
How about circumcision?
Yeah, circumcision as well is also determined by sex organs. What else? So it's like we have 3 points for the males, for 2 points, 3 points for the females, and 2 points for the males. What else? We can make it 5-5. Yes, it's possible. What else? Are these the only ones? Yes, let's brainstorm. Let's bring up more points.
Okay, girls have ovaries and male has testes.
In terms of sex organs now, they have different sex organs. And these sex organs have different functions. Ovulation is the males, it is the females who ovulate. They are able to produce eggs, while the other gender cannot produce eggs. Interesting, What else? Let's keep on brainstorming. It's getting more interesting. Others, they are just puzzled. You didn't know. That's why we are here. Remember, the aim of this course is you get more knowledge and skills about gender and... What else? Okay, now, those that who have talked enough of sex roles, I think you also have some, or we can even research more on that one. Let's look about gender roles. What do you understand by the term gender role? Gender role. How do that females can't do?
They can by her because that's not likely to be done by women. Or you say that the task is assigned to females?
I think it's a behavior or a role which is named but also determined by someone's sex.
Determined by sex? Interesting. Gender role.
It's more like a man is expected to work and the woman is expected to look after children.
Who came up with this ideology? How does it come up?
They will just
Naturally?
Yeah.
Naturally, that means they are biological.
Actually, I think it came out from the way society
Perceives it. So gender roles mainly they are culturally constructed. Because if you go into different cultural settings, you have different gender roles. Are we together there? Our friend said, whereby males do this and females do this. So I asked you, how did this come into place? It's culturally constructed, because if you go into different cultural settings, they have different cultures. One culture one gender role can be considered right in this specific cultural setting, while when you go to another cultural setting, you find it's weird. It's the other way around. Can you give an example of such type of roles or can you give examples of roles which are different from different cultures? A very good example would be dressing. It's just relevant these days that at least now ladies are able to put on trousers. Well, back then it was considered to be a Western thing. Am I right? So it's just a matter of an example of some of the gender roles which are culturally constructed. But apart from the dressing, what are some of the gender roles that you know? Gender roles. So a gender role is a behavior or is a role learned by a person as appropriate to their gender, determined by prevailing cultural norms. It can be described as the behavior that society considers to be appropriate for men and women, how one is expected to act, speak, groom, conduct oneself as a male or female. So in terms of how the society expects you to act, there are some ways that the society expects you to act as a female. Can you mention some of these acts that the society expects you to act as a female or as a male? Some of the acts that the society expects you to act.
Okay, for the male is the male must be the head of the family. And
like as being in the head, what do you mean?
like the one who sacrificed everything for the parents.
Sacrifice even his life, eh?
Yeah, even his life. I would say like you must be able to find food.
One speak at a time. If you have a point, please raise up. We also want to listen what you're sharing. Yeah, it could be very interesting.
You must find food for this everyone and like the basic needs.
So the society expects they are to act as a head, to die for the family. What else? What are some of the expectations that the society has regarding to gender or regarding to sex? What about females? How do the society expect a woman to act? To be very calm, eh? To be very calm, very soft. Is it not the way society expects a woman to behave? If you are not soft, how do they describe you? If you are a woman but you're not soft, how does the society describe you? They describe you to be someone weird in the society, because that's how the society expects you. And if you are a man and you are very soft, how do the society describe you? If you are a man but you're very soft, how do they describe you?
It's more like the woman is expected to be soft, calm and everything, then the man is more expected to be bold and aggressive.
And cunning, yes. That's how the society expects, eh?
Yeah, even when you are soft, but then you don't have to show it.
You have to be strong. You have to show the strong side.
Masculinity in you. Okay, fine. So the way you speak, the way you groom and conduct oneself. Okay, what about conduct? How does the society expect a woman to conduct themselves, maybe especially in public? Respectful. How does the society expect a woman to conduct themselves in public? Are they supposed to be speaking out now and then? If you speak out now and then, how do they label you?
If you are in public where you are supposed to eat after that, women are supposed to go to the kitchen and prepare food
For the rest of the team.
Yes.
What about why for the men? How does society expect men to behave or to conduct themselves?
Like they should take charge. A man should take charge.
They should be there leading.
Yeah.
Be the leaders.
And if it's time to speak out, they should be the ones in forefront speaking, putting up their decisions, bringing out points. That's how society expects the different genders to conduct themselves. Now, categories of gender roles. Gender issues. Gender issue is any issue or concern determined by gender-based or sex-based differences between males and females. Categories of gender roles. Gender issue. What is a gender issue?
Something concerning gender.
Something concerning gender.
Something concerning about male and female roles.
There are differences based on equality, discrimination, sexism, male-female ratio in schools and at work as well. Those are some of the gender issues. Gender role and what is socialization? What do you understand by the word socialization? To interact. Just interact. Socialization. So how would you, if someone would ask you to define the term socialization, how would you define it?
It's a process whereby individuals interact in a one-on-one situation or a group.
Or in a group setting. The interaction can be between people of different age groups. Others, they are very good at interacting with different age groups, either their peers or those that are not their peers. So gender role socialization, what does it mean? Or how would you describe gender role socialization?
Gender role socialization is when people with different behaviors and attributes according to their sex socialize or interact in a way that they understand their differences and they are working on that as a group.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. So, in our society, we find out really the way different genders socialize is also different. You find out really boys only will socialize boys only. Girls will also socialize girls only. And this type of socialization is very common in the very ages of our child upbringing, in primary schools, in secondary school. Does it also happen here at the university?
Not the way it used to happen.
How can you please tell us the difference of socialization that occurs in primary or secondary school or at the university?
They are not serious with the socialization thing.
How? No, wait. How are they not serious?
They are placing us a boy,
After this one mixed.
a boy, a girl, and a boy.
So they are not serious?
Yes. Because, of course, at some moment they just have to be strict when you're so much into the boys doing things that boys are doing or interacting with the guys. But in secondary school, there's this no barely thing. You don't have to stay a long time with a guy. What are you doing?
If you stay a lot of, if you spend too much time with guys, what happens?
they say,
Yeah?
Especially,
Oh.
it's either you guys are having an affair or something. So yeah, you don't spend a lot of time with guys because there's this difference that has to be there between a girl and a guy. What guys are doing mostly, girls and guys are involved in class.
Only.
Well, maybe because I was in boarding, I don't know what happens in your story. But then in class, after that,
Also for you, you were in a girls only boarding school?
boys and girls boarding school. So after the classes, you guys don't have to meet somewhere. What are you
somewhere.
So you only socialize during class time. After classes, if you are seen socializing, you need discipline.
Yes.
While here at the university, what happens?
Village system.
They will even drop us 8.
Okay, so boys play, okay, in terms when they are very young, you see could it from a very young age, you find could even the parents also contribute. Boys playing with toy cars, blocks, or soldiers and guns, while girls play with dolls. So girls must be feminine. So from the very early age, children grow up with that type of mindset. You see boys, parents giving boys toys, giving boys cars, blocks, soldiers, guns, but girls, but girls mainly they're given dolls. Exactly, dolls. So So, in terms of even the mass media as well, you find out if you're watching TV programs, they are also they are categorized. These TV programs, they are mainly for boys, others they are mainly for girls. That's how our society has gone. That's how even our families can influence us in terms of gender roles. Boys may also identify as masculine behavior, talking after their father, taking children to the hospital. So if you are a boy in the home, you also act like a father. You have that fatherly figure, and it can also be even very ways whereby they give you a lot of respect. You don't even clean the dishes.
We've seen it all.
You have seen it all. Please tell us. So the boys in our homes, they act like father figures. Apart from our father, we also have my small fathers.
They even act weird more than our father.
Serious?
They've gone,
How weird do they act?
they've grown wings.
They don't know the father figure, so they just
They want to be the father without kids.
So gender role is a social role encompassing behaviors and attitudes that are generally considered acceptable, appropriate or desirable for people based on their actual or perceived sex or sexuality. So gender roles are passed through generation to generation. For example, what we are just discussing here, it has been passed on from generation to generation.
boys don't cook.
And you can see what the other generation passes out to the next generation, the other generation carries that and passes out to the next generation. That's what exactly happens. But for example, this current generation, there a lot of things are happening. You can see the way our parents used to perceive things. It's not the same way this generation is perceiving things. That means even this generation, they are going to pass out a totally different culture to the next generation. Are we in agreement to that?
Yes.
You can see maybe back then the way boys used to be treated in homes is a little bit changing. Nowadays parents can buy their kids equal type of toys. They can buy a girl a car nowadays. It just depends on the perception of a particular parent. In terms of career choice, can one explain to us what is happening in terms of career nowadays? Are we still stuck with the other generation, putting these specific careers are specifically for ladies or men, or these careers are specifically? What is happening recently in terms of professions?
Now it's equal nowadays.
It's equal? How are careers being equal nowadays?
I think through education, everything is changing. Like, everybody is given that opportunity to the papers that you have. Nowadays, you don't just put somebody on place because they can do it or they are male. Nowadays, it's all about qualifications.
It's about qualifications.
Yeah.
So if you're a girl, you can do any profession you deem fit to do it.
Yes, I can be called as a president.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Aside.
Okay, so as children grow, they start learning what behavior is appropriate and expected of them. The behavior is enforced when parents praise and reward their children for that behavior. When the behavior is inappropriate, they are punished. So some of the behaviors that we portray are built up by our parents, because in a family setting, if you do some behaviors which the family deems to be appropriate, they reward you. Either they can set up ones for this person, or in a family setting to encourage you so that you continue portraying that type of behavior. Sometimes they can even buy you a gift. There are different type of reinforcement that parents do in our homes. Am I right? What are some of the reinforcements that parents give in our homes? Can you give out the examples? Some of the reinforcements that our parents give in our homes so that we continue portraying that behavior in our homes. Or they just leave us.
No.
If there's a certain behavior that our parents have seen enough in us, and they have deemed that behavior to be appropriate according to that family, what type of reinforcement do they give us?
Maybe they buy us clothes.
Yes? One speak at a time.
They used to freedom.
They give you freedom?
15%.
Yeah.
What type of freedom do they give?
Okay, freedom. I should say on
Yeah, because freedom is a broad term, eh?
Yes.
What if, let's say you give a type of behavior portrayed in what the type of freedom which you're given.
I want to explain.
Wait first, she should continue what she has started.
Child
No! Finish what you have started, then she's going to take over.
It's not like they give you not all the freedom, but it's a certain percentage of freedom that is normally given to a child. You got, maybe you were given a curfew of coming back home 5 o'clock, they will extend it to 8.
Okay, so that's the type of freedom you're talking about. Now you can add.
Now I'll stay with you when that freedom can be given to boys from 5 to 8. It depends on how they are growing. So
it also depends on the family setting, as I've already said. So different families have their own behaviors which they deem to be perfect for that family.
yes. So when on freedom, I was about to add that to girls, they can give you that freedom if they see the way you are acting home. You know, parents can tell the way this girl is acting, she can take care of herself out there, or she's strong enough to do it. That kind of trust. So yeah, you gain that kind of freedom to go out, but then when it's out there, you know, people talk a lot, so it also can enforcement can become as a behavior, like really to my trust issues. Mama parents command, yeah, the enforcement is there kind of freedom, but also some reinforcement, when you've done something that they didn't maybe expect, like you are taking care of more care in like the days, yeah, they give you kama freedom, like really, they're always calling you. That's kama freedom.
When they're always calling you. Because they're deemed to be their favorite.
She's back. it's always your name. Because,
Your favorite.
yeah, not put favorite as favorite, commando, like you always get things done when it's needed that time, unlike others.
Is it true that the behavior that you portray to your parents is the one that will determine
What they're going to give you.
The type of the reinforcement.
I think it also depends with age. The more you grow, the more maturity that you show to your parents. And then that's when you
And no, things change.
What about if you do the behavior or if you portray that behavior which the family considers to be very bad behavior? What happens?
Oh,
They kick you out.
you're grounded. No, you are.
How do they kick you? You're still their item. Their property. How do they kick? They kick you out, where do you go?
They don't kick you out.
To your uncle.
To your uncle. So the uncle is a refuge.
No,
where-
They send you to what? Analizi? They invite you.
Does this happen?
It happens.
It happens.
Sometimes they even send you to your home village. Yes, home village, and tell the elders to sit down with you.
But is it not that running away from their responsibility? How do you look at it?
It's a lot of lessons whereby they have sat down with you. They are tired.
They have failed.
Parents can't just reach a point of saying, we can't handle this, you should just go to this person, they'll talk to you there. They try and help, but then you're not changing. So they go, I think
We've been
And sometimes they do expect that this child will be at some point, this will happen. That one will give you an attack. If that happens, well,
What type of behavior is that?
no.
Okay, fine. So children are also encouraged to serve different roles in their interaction with the outside world. So they expect you to serve different roles in your interaction with the outside world. Boys' physical activity, girls how they look and present themselves. So there's a certain way that you are encouraged of the different roles that you interact in the world. In a school setting, like here, what are some of the roles that you exercise? For example, here at campus, what are some of the roles that you exercise?
We talked about dressing sometime back.
It's not relevant. Eh?
This is correct.
Okay, fine. Let us look at significant issues and events in the lives of women. That's a subtopic, eh? Significant issues and events in the life of women. What are some of the women issues that you know or that are relevant to you?
issues.
Significant issues and events in the lives of women. Remember, at the very first beginning, we talked of gender issues. We even gave out examples. At the very beginning of this class, can you remember? We talked about this, gender issues, and I even gave out examples. No, now, what are some of these issues that are mainly related to women? Gender-based violence. What else? Inequality. So we have economic inequality. That is one of an issue we want to look at. Significant issues and events in the lives of women. Number one issue that we want to look at, economic inequality. How do you understand by this word economic inequality? For you to best describe this term, I would advise you maybe first of all let us look at the word inequality. What does it mean? Inequality. Unequal treatment. So when we combine this economic inequality, how would you define this term? Economic inequality. Yeah. Unequal, madam.
So like it's an equal access to economic assets, like land is supposed to be owned by me. And when the man dies, it's supposed to be given to the son.
Another explanation, economic inequality. How would you best describe this term? This is the difference in different measures of economic well-being. The difference in different measures of economic well-being among individuals in a group.
Different measures on what?
There is the difference in different different measures of economic well-being. Economic well-being. It may mean income inequality, wealth inequality, or wealth gap. Okay, so mainly this term is trying to describe in terms of income. In terms of income. In terms of wealth, or if there is any wealth gap, maybe someone has more income than the other, that means there we have economic inequality. Do we have some women who are very wealthy than the other? What are the contributing factors to this economic inequality in women?
What has contributed to?
Or what is contributing? Or what are some of the factors that brings up this economic inequality among women?
I think education.
Education. Can you explain?
Like through education, you can gain knowledge on how you can deal with your economic issues. So when a woman doesn't get enough education, there's no way you can do that. You can raise your economic standards.
Low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. Like other women don't have the courage to boost themselves up, or others are just there trying hard. So for those who don't have the courage to boost whatever they do, to boost their energy or to put that much effort in what they do, they don't usually make it that much. All those ones who strive hard, fight the discrimination out there, they make it.
I also think that culture does contribute to economic inequality, because there are cases that a woman is not supposed to do this. So you just live like that as a woman. You don't work towards your contribution as to gain something for yourself, because you are always expecting a guy to provide for you, as he is the source of.
You've not talked anything since this class. Please say something. You're just smiling, laughing, no contribution. Say something. If you have not said anything, your turn is coming. We want to hear your voice now. We want you to contribute something. Economic inequality. What are some of the factors that encourage for women to have some gender inequalities? We're saying that some women seem to be having a lot of income than the other. Why is this like that? So our friends have talked about education, they have talked about culture, they have talked about low self-esteem. What else?
Few opportunities for getting jobs.
Few opportunities for getting jobs.
But this time around, women they have chances of getting jobs than men, because of this governmental shit.
So how is the employment and the economic inequality. When we're talking about women, like women themselves, others they have a lot of income, others they have less income. So why is there this wealth gap?
Sometimes it depends to looks of the girl.
Oh,
Yeah, we can have the same correlation as me and Mira.
all of you are girls.
No, I mean like boy and girl.
No, we're talking about girls only. We're talking about women only. So if looks contribute. Okay,
So
interesting.
I think I should add on what he said. He said what?
Looks,
No, the main point.
employment, opportunities.
I can say that the number of women who can be qualified to do a job at that time it was less than how they could take males. So during that time, the opportunity for women to get access to do some office job was lesser than nowadays. So
The point is, if girls are usually getting jobs than others.
Is it true?
Yeah.
it depends. No. It depends.
So beautiful girls easily get jobs.
Yeah.
Girls, what are we saying?
Good girls, they are attractive.
So we don't know.
They say
It's hard.
Please continue. Beautiful girls are attractive.
It depends on the type of job. There are some jobs which when a girl applies or a woman applies, the boss or the people have to look down on the girl say, you're a woman, what can you add?
Offer.
Yes, what can you add to the industry or what can you bring? You have nothing to bring. That is hard for a woman to go in. But then there are some jobs that are just there. Yeah, why we open for women to go? And then that would also go the same with men. They would say, you're a man and you're offering for this job, what are you going to bring in or what? So it just depends on the job. And then they are trying to say, okay, nowadays bosses, we've heard people say bosses are taking advantage of women, beautiful girls, living with them to give them the job and all that. That's why they're trying to say so.
So it's not a free job, eh?
It's not a free
Because
job.
give and take.
Yeah.
Not free.
I don't know, but my own point of view, I think also corruption.
Corruption.
It's more like people now have connections, just what
We are building social networks.
yeah.
So, but among women, how is it related to only? We're talking about only women here.
Yes.
Women issues. So some women are more connected than the others.
Yes. Social network.
Okay, fine. Let us look at this second issue: sexist language.
Another gender issue?
Sexist language. How do you understand by this term? Sexist language. The language that excludes one gender from the other. A language that excludes either men or women from discussing a topic. A language that excludes either men or women when discussing a topic that is applicable to both sexes. Sexist language. Language that excludes either men or women when discussing a topic that is applicable to both sexes. Like man, meaning human beings. What is the other sexist language that we often use in our communities or even here at campus? I've given an example, man. Man, just keep on giving, talking, eh? But when you say man, that means you've included both sexes. What is the other word? Or what can you give example of other words that are used that are sexist? guys. Guys, does it mean you only mean a male?
No.
It means both sexes, eh? So that is also another example of a sexist language. What else?
She's trying to ask about the language that excludes
The language that excludes either men or women from the language that excludes either men or women when discussing a topic that is applicable to both sexes. You're trying to relay a message. That message applies to both sexes. Come using such a term. That term is sexist. So I've given an example like you're saying guys.
Like students.
No, students applies to men and women. Eh? Come on, there's this sexist language like guys, man. We normally use them, but maybe we use them unconsciously. Come on, when we say these words when we're in a group, we know this word is being referred to all of us here.
Nowadays we are using boys, calling each other boys.
You see? So that is a sexist language. What else?
Niggas.
Niggas, eh?
We call each other that.
Sure. Wow, interesting. So those like firemen or for example when you're making your applications, we used to say dear sir. But now at least people have been enlightened. They write dear sir or madam. But back then just used to say sir as if the ones recruiting are only men.
It was used to be dear sir or madam. Nowadays we just put one.
What do you use now?
Nowadays that's when we use just dear sir. Nowadays we use dear sir or madam.
Okay, fine. So we have like sexist language like men, meaning human beings, firemen, congressman, headmaster. Back then when you say headmaster, they would even refer to a mistress, eh? Headmaster, that means it either refers to a man or a female. When you say headmaster, you should be perceiving that it's either a man or a woman. A master. Then you have another issue, battered spouse. Battered spouse. What does the word battered mean? What have you ever come across this term? Battered. Yeah. What does it mean?
I think it's like somebody who's just stationary, who's just with like a woman who's just being given everything by the man. But
interesting. At the very end, have you come across this word battered? No? No. I thought maybe you're busy on Google trying to find out the meaning. Battered, what does it mean? It's related to abuse, eh? Being battered, abuse. You can Google it and find. Use of domestic violence, eh? Use of domestic violence which may lead to battered spouse syndrome, a result of long-term domestic violence. Issues of domestic violence which may lead to battered spouse syndrome, a result of long-term domestic violence. Mostly it's a result of long-term domestic violence. Eh? Issues of domestic violence which may lead to battered spouse syndrome, which may lead to battered spouse syndrome, a result of long-term domestic violence. Long-term domestic violence. Now let's talk a bit about domestic violence. Do they exist in our homes, in our community? Do they still exist, or maybe they've ended? They are still existing. Can you give an example of any domestic violence that you've encountered, that you've come across, or that you've heard? Domestic violence.
Is rape a domestic violence?
It could be. It is. Is it only man abusing woman?
Women are using now. There's this other woman on social media, she's trending. She abused her own child, like
A woman? How? What happened?
sleeping with her son,
No.
10-year-old son.
Serious?
Yeah.
Is it normal or maybe ritualistic in nature?
People that are saying
It's a ritual?
yeah.
In I've seen from above the man and the woman abusing their kids too, beating them.
What offense did they commit?
I don't even know. Commando, the beating was too much. They were kids, like 5. Yeah, they died like.
And this
Two parents
Yes, a man and a woman,
beating their own
own
child.
yes, children. They were 2. It was even the neighbors who reported them.
To police.
It was bad.
And this other time my man has to a son, and they had a son and 2 years old. Then after summer, the son had to eat her summer, commando sana. Then the son had to eat her father's food. His father's food.
It was an offense.
Yeah, when the father was back, he was angry and he was taking. They had to take a pan wake up a mono.
No.
Taking my jamana with a wake up a bunny bat.
It happened.
Yeah, it did.
So those are some of the domestic violences happening in our community. Very strange, eh? Very strange. Now let us look at this subtopic, the impact of gender and culture. The impact of gender and culture. So let us look at the frequently used gender terminologies. We're going to look at the frequently used gender terminologies. Number 1, gender sensitivity. Frequently used gender terminologies. 1, gender sensitivity. How would you describe or how would you define gender sensitivity? How would you define gender sensitivity? Or how would you define someone who is gender sensitive?
Gender sensitive, it's like, how can I describe somebody who's gender sensitive?
Or how would you define the term gender sensitive?
No, I think I can define somebody who's gender sensitive.
Okay, fine.
The person who knows his law and the differences between both genders and what it's supposed to do.
So how would you define gender sensitivity?
It's the knowledge of one's responsibility and behaviors.
The person you described very well. So the term is just playing around with words, eh?
Yeah.
It means gender awareness, clarifying issues about gender disparities and gender issues. When one is conversant or is able to understand the different gender issues, that means that person is being gender sensitive. Awareness, clarifying issues about gender disparities and gender issues. So it pertains to one's effort to see how gender shapes the role of women and men in society. So one being able to perceive how gender is shaping the roles of men and women in society, including their role in development and how it affects their relationship between them. So when one is being gender sensitive, that means they're able to know, they're very conversant, they're able to understand the different issues that are present in their societies. They're able to understand how these different roles are able to affect the different gender roles in their societies, and the relationship of these different gender issues, the gender roles, with development. How does it affect your development of the country? So if you're able to be very conversant with the gender issues, you're able to understand the different gender roles among men and women, and how they are related to development, or how they're able to affect development. That means you are being gender sensitive. Yeah, so that's gender sensitivity. Another term is sexuality. Sexuality. So we're looking at the different terms and concepts, different terminologies used in gender. That means once we have looked at these terms, going forward, we will no longer be looking at the meanings of these terms, we'll just be mentioning them, because these terms, they're frequently used. We are going to be frequently using these terms along the semester, along the course. So we have to look in details at the beginning, so that as we go along, we'll just be mentioning them, and once we mention them, everyone will be familiar with the terms. I've looked at gender sensitivity as one of the terms. Now I want to look at sexuality. What do you understand by the word sexuality? Sexuality. Amount of feelings.
That's sexual.
Another, how do you define sexuality?
It's defined in generally as a mutual feelings you get for another partner.
The sexual attraction. So sexuality refers to sexual attraction, practices, identity which may or may not align with sex and gender.
Yeah.
So when you're trying, it refers to sexual attraction, practices, and identity which may or may not align with sex and gender. So when you're defining sexuality, you should also be having this in mind. The LGBT guys, don't leave them out. Back then they used to define it as attraction between male and female, but because things are changing, sexuality, the definition has also changed. So sexuality refers to sexual attraction, practices, and identity which may or may not align with sex and gender. That's where these guys come in. What about gender equality? How would you define gender equality?
Gender equality, equal access to resources to both.
Equal access to resources to both genders. So the absence of discrimination on the basis of a person's sex in authority, opportunities, allocation of resources or benefits for men and women in culture. So lack of discrimination. Either it is a person on the basis of a person's sex, in authority or opportunities, allocation of resources. If there is no any form of discrimination, that means that we're applying gender equality, so the absence of any gender discrimination in all aspects of life. What about gender equity? Gender equity. Is it a new term or? No. How would you define gender equity?
We were looking for this other guy's answer. The second year is what the answer and understand that.
Gender equity.
Which supports fairness between men and women.
So gender equity is the process of being fair. The process of being fair to men and women, equal access to rights and privileges. Equity leads to equality. Equity, if you're being fair, it leads to being equal. So the other one is the result of the other. Gender equity also implies that health needs which are specific to gender receive appropriate resources. It also refers to, it also implies that healthy needs which are specific to gender receive appropriate resources. So how best would you illustrate gender equity? I came across a certain illustration where gender equity was being illustrated. How would you portray or how would you illustrate gender equity?
Teach men domestic activities. Not only women to do for them, but also to teach them the whole actions.
Okay, fine. A very good illustration would be, for example, we have, irrespective of their sexes, either it's male or female, you have kids and you have us like elders. So the kids, all of us want to get something on top. There's something which is on top, but because of the way we are, others they are shorter because of their age, others they are taller. So that means the ones who are tall will easily get that thing on top. Those people who are short will have challenges to pick that thing on top. So to make it fair, you put something down, either it's a chair or what, so that at least it also helps them reach the same height. So in the process of bringing in those other materials to make them be of the same height as the elders, we are trying to practice being fair. So that's that's one way or how best you can illustrate fairness. Irrespective of either they are elders or they are young, but they were treating them fair so that everyone has access to that thing which is on top.
You ask the top person to do that and then you share for money.
Yeah, as long as there's that idea of being fairness, that's gender equity. What about gender awareness?
No, you want gender equity.
Gender awareness, how would you define that?
Knowledge of one's gender behavior.
Okay, fine. The understanding that these are socially determined differences between men and women. The understanding that these are socially determined differences between men and women, and that these influence the access to and control of resources. So you should be able to understand that there are socially determined differences between males and females. And you should also be able to understand how these differences influence access to resources as well as control of resources. So understanding the differences, but also being able to understand how these differences influence access and control of resources. Yeah, any questions, any comments?